So I thought I'd record another part to The Pursuit of Truth, which is on Anchor FM if you're listening to this on a different platform. I believe it's also on some Apple platforms and something, I can't remember what it was, something Cast. And eventually I hope to put them on YouTube. So the thing I was going to talk about, or start talking about, I'm sure I will ramble onto different subjects as I normally do. Which I'm sure is most annoying to those who want to listen to a certain particular thing. But I suppose I should say, that the pursuit of truth has many avenues. Yeah, anyway. So that was to do with false flags. So one of the first false flags that I really got interested in, I refer to them as false flags, I suppose that is a matter of opinion, is 9/11. And whenever you hear a lot of people's stories of conspiracy, or especially flat earth, their initial starting point was 9/11. That was what woke them. And as I said, I think in the first part, is that, originally I didn't have any question. I believed it, I saw it, I didn't think about it. I knew that the war on Iraq and Afghanistan, the weapons of mass destruction, was a lie, but I never thought about the buildings until I went on YouTube and saw all the stuff. And I suppose this is another thing, just before I'm going to go off to another tangent, is often a lot of people say, YouTube, you can't trust any of that. Well, wait a minute, what do you mean you can't trust any of that? Who are the people on YouTube? Oh yeah, they're ordinary people. Yeah, who are the people on the television and journalists? Oh, they're ordinary people. Everyone are people. They all have their own opinion. Just because they have qualifications. Even people on YouTube have qualifications. I have BTECs in media. I could be a journalist if I had the confidence to be a journalist. So just because I'm on YouTube or a journalist, it shouldn't negate one or the other. The thing about YouTube, what it's doing, is it's allowing people to be as open as possible and explore different avenues. Some people may say that's dangerous, but those people usually it's because they only want the mainstream, and they trust BBC, CNN, all those organisations, Sky News, whoever it is, wherever you are. But we all know that people lie, and people have their agendas, and when it comes to independence, that is very highly overrated, and I don't even know if it is even possible, humanly possible, to be independent. It's one of those, another one of those, like I was talking to the last program, lies, in plain sight. Can you ever truly be independent? Because as a human, we have our bias. Sometimes we don't even realise we have them and where we even got them from. So anyway, back to 9/11. So yeah, watching YouTube, came across videos. I don't even remember whose videos they were now. There's so many. And I spent a lot of time watching those because I was interested, really. And it started making me think about the things. The problem is also with these things is there's lots of different theories, and then you don't know especially when you open your mind to this fact that not everything you know may be true. It then becomes, how do you everyone can say everything then, and then how do you know where do you stop? Like David Icke and his reptile people, or the Queen being a reptile. The thing is, you say, oh no, that's impossible, but then how do you know? So that's the problem, is when you open your mind, when you discover, or when you think that not everything that you're being told may be true, you don't then know where the lies are and when the truths are. So that's a problem. But yeah, so when seeing these videos and things like the planes, people, obviously I'm a Muslim, and I had to defend myself when it came to 9/11 because of obviously Islamic connotation connected to it. And there were people that believed that that it was the CIA or whoever was allowed to happen, or that kind of thing. And I never actually believed that. I thought, that's too impossible, that they would never do something like that. And of course, but then I knew that the Iraq War and Afghanistan War was fake, so I don't understand why I didn't think that that was possible. I just thought that it was too outlandish that they kill their own people. But then in war, whose people are they killing? Well, they're killing both sides, aren't they? And then when you get into things like the Second World War and stuff like that, and you find out things I didn't know, you think of it like when you see films, it's the good versus the bad, the white hat versus the black hat, to quote movie literature. And you think of it as like good and bad and stuff like that, and then you realise when you research all these things that you find out that there were people that were profiteering on both sides. They could have been British, they could have been American, and they were funding both sides of the war. And yet then whose war was it really? Was the war just a smokescreen for the money laundering, for profiteering out of misery? And then it gets into the whole thing about history and how it's written, and obviously if you leave out these very salient important points, you're then directed or misdirected into thinking of it a certain way. And that's what movies do as well, because movies tell lies all the time with historical movies, where it's meant to be about a historical event, and they're allowed to just change bits or add bits for dramatic purpose. Lying. I mean, how can any film that's meant to be based on a factual event change factual events? But that happens all the time in historical movies. You've got to think about that one. Yeah, because most people get their education from movies, because it's lasting. It's got a lasting imprint. Seeing a movie about the Second World War, this, that, and the other, which in a history lesson it might not stick in your mind, but a movie will. And then you find out, no, we made all that bit up, or that bit never even happened, or we don't even know if that bit happened, but we added it anyway because it may have happened. Because movies never say that they're the truth, but you never think about them not being, when it comes to a historical event. Anyway, so back to 9/11 again. So yeah, the planes going in, it did always worry me how easy it was for these planes to go in their own imprint, and the passport. I mean, I don't know why that didn't stick out more. I mean, I did laugh at it, but I thought that the passport had been planted there. That the event took place. Maybe these people were on the plane, but the passport was just planted there to make it easier to prosecute, to allege who it was. Although the people who it were, they never attacked because they were Saudis and they weren't from Iraq or Afghanistan. But that's another whole lie. But we took that one, didn't we? Yeah. Never think about that the people on there weren't Iraqi or Afghanistan. But of course, because of Al Qaeda link, that's how they managed to get back there, because that's where their base was. I'm doing inverted commas when I said that. So yeah, the plane going in there, it was, and then obviously the way the buildings fell. And there's lots of, when you listen to these documentaries, there's lots of stuff that leaves you with question marks. And it's not just that, it's when you come to other events as well, like the 7/7 in the UK, the picking them up, the train that they were meant to go on never actually ran, the alleged CCTV footage changed. Possibly they were crisis actors, pretending to do a real event because there was a real event taking place at the time. And, obviously that would be a great way to get Muslims involved in this thing. You plant the bomb, because there was a man, apparently a Jewish man, who went on the bus and came off. I've never heard that one, but I only heard that recently. But yeah, you can plant the bomb, and then you pretend that you're doing a fake exercise. As long as those people that think they're part of the fake exercise get killed, they can never talk about it. The only problem is they might tell other people they're doing, because they're usually like actors, isn't it, and the extras. But I don't know, maybe they use particular actors that they don't talk about these things, or I don't know how they pick people. But as I'm saying this, the whole thing about the idea of the scale, well, it's not really a great scale, it's just thinking that it's easier to think the mainstream way that, these people set out to do this and they did it. That's a very easy way to see it. But then is that just because I got that thought first? Because that's often the way, when someone tells a lie to you. If two people tell you a lie, what I mean is that if the first person tells you a lie and you don't know, you believe that to be the truth. And when another person comes and says, that's not what happened, this is what happened, you won't believe that second person just purely because he's the second person. It doesn't matter how more valid it sounds. It's just because that first one entered your brain first and has set that groundwork. It's very difficult, if you ever had an argument between a person when you're in the right and then another person is lying. It's very difficult. The first person who gets to the third party will often believe the first person. So maybe that's why my mind is thinking, it's so difficult to believe that people will do these things. And then the other thing is like the motive. What would be the motive for all these false flag and conspiracies, flat earth and all that lying about it? What would be the motive? Who profits from these lies? Is there enough profit to get from these lies? Would it make any difference? I mean, I suppose with like false flag and conspiracies and things, there are benefits out of them, because a lot of the military people, the sales of weapons, the laws that they bring in, there are advantages to certain people. The problem is, maybe the people who are really doing it might not even be government people, there might be somebody else. And maybe there's some way they can get money, but obviously we wouldn't know about that, because if we knew about that, then this wouldn't be happening. So maybe it's something we can't even see. That sounds even more conspiratorial, doesn't it? And then it leaves you my normal endpoint of not knowing what is possible, what's impossible, what's truth, what's falsehood. It's very difficult to distinguish those things when you start thinking this way. And obviously anyone else hearing you think of this way will think, immediately, you're crazy. How can you ever think such things? But there are many things in history, if history be true, where we've been sold a lie. Things like, wasn't there a case recently about the assassination of, was it Martin Luther King? That it was a CIA operative, but that's not taught anywhere. But there are many times where, even like when it comes to getting America into the war and sinking ships to get them to join and stuff like that, lots of these things that at the time were never told, and then later you find out. So all this is possible. It may seem highly unlikely, and it's easier not to believe in it. Definitely it's easier not to believe in it. But then, would you like to live your life in a lie? Anyway, that's enough for now. Take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.